Developing sustainability-related competencies for employees and trainees in food processing professions in industrial and artisanal food production. My name is Christina Strothmann. I am a senior researcher at the Institute of Sustainable Nutrition and Münster School of Vocational Education, which belong to Münster University of Applied Sciences in Germany. I welcome you to my presentation. First, I will provide you with some background information, inform you about the objectives of the study, and present the approach of developing the competency structure model. Finally, I will show you the result of this study, which is a competency model for sustainable vocational education and training for the domain of artisanal and industrial food production. The background of this study is provided by the 17 Sustainable Development Goals the member states of the United Nations have agreed on. But what does sustainable development mean? The World Commission on Environment and Development, in its report, Our Common Future, has named it as follows. Sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So sustainable development comprises intergenerational equity, which tries to distribute among present generations, that is us, and future generations, that is our children and grandchildren, as well as intragenerational equity, which is the just distribution of resources between the members of the same generation. A key instrument to achieve the SDGs is education. SDG 4 targets to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Specifically, SDG 4.7 demands to ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development. This should be accomplished through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. As it concerns education for sustainable development, labor is a large group of learners, and it is the connection between the needs of sustainable development and the economy. Labor is considered a crucial factor to transform our society into a sustainable society by the means of technical and social innovations. In Germany, the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training already established its working focus on sustainable development in 2001. Currently, 6 pilot projects are carried out. The work that is presented here is the result of the scientific supervision of the 6 pilot projects. What is the task of the scientific supervision? The scientific supervision has 4 main tasks, which are supporting and supervising the pilot projects in their effort to develop learning and teaching materials, evaluating and ensuring the pilot's progress, initiating and fostering communication and networking activities, and last, documenting and analyzing results. Based on these 4 tasks, the scientific supervision also contributes to theory and model development in the field of sustainable education and training. One important task in this context is the identification of sustainability-related competencies in the field of vocational training. Specifically, the objective is to develop a competency structure model which can universally be applied for the domain of artisanal and industrial food production. This model regards the dimensions of action competence and presents the basis for the didactic conception and the design of sustainability-related training and learning processes. And this is the approach how this specific competency structure model was developed. First, relevant fields of action for the specific domain of artisanal and industrial food production were identified. Second, the competency model for sustainable vocational education and training was adapted to this specific domain. After that, sustainability-related topics were gathered and subsequently structured and allocated into the competency model. Last, competency targets were formulated. So let's get started. This is what we did. In order to identify the relevant fields of action for the domain, we needed to understand where employees and trainees in food processing professions in artisanal and industrial food production work. As you can see here, the field is very wide. In the first step, agricultural products are processed in wineries, in the milling industry, in sugar refineries, and so on. But just as wide is the field of preparing processed foods ready for consumption. These are the fields of action that all professions have in common. We can differentiate between core and supporting processes. While core processes are directly related to adding value to the raw materials, the semi-finished goods, or the final products, supporting processes comprise overarching tasks, such as cleaning or maintenance of machines or assuring quality. The main core processes are related to receiving raw materials when they are delivered, storing them until they are needed, and providing them when they are required for the actual task of processing them, such as baking the bread, brewing the beer, making sausages, candy, or any other foodstuff. Further core processes comprise portioning and packaging the processed food to finalize the product. Then storage and distribution activities are required before the products actually reach the point of sale. Only some professions then are involved in marketing the final products to the consumers, such as the wine technologist, the baker, or the butcher in artisanal businesses, who directly interact with their customers. So how can we distinguish these fields of action? In this context, we refer to the different circles of experience. The inner circle, here marked in dark gray color, is related to the direct working processes we got to know on the last slide. However, there are more relevant fields we need to pay attention to complete the picture. The second circle of experience, here marked in light gray color, refers to the organization as a whole. These are the fields that are related to managerial decision-making, such as deciding about business models or organizing working processes. The third circle, marked in green, concerns the environment of the organization. It relates to the organization's interaction with stakeholders, such as customers, suppliers, politics, or branch associations. For instance, it relates to the organization's positioning in environmental questions or to its reaction on trends. From the last slides, we remember there are different fields of action relevant to identify sustainability-related competencies. The question now is, how can we merge these different fields of action into a competence model which is targeted to fostering vocational action competence of employees? The basis for this is provided by the work of the scientific supervision of former pilot projects. They introduced a general competency model which combines social, professional, and self-competence required to foster vocational action competence with the relevant fields of action, given by the three circles of experience which were presented on the last slide. The competency dimensions in this model comprise sustainability competencies for product and process-related expertise, for social responsibility, and for empowerment and identification. What we needed to do next was to adapt the general model to our specific domain of food processing professions in artisanal and industrial food production. For this, the specific fields of action, which were introduced on the previous slides, were included in the first column of the general model. Remember, these were the fields related to the direct working environment, given by the inner circle of experience, the organization in its entirety, the second circle of experience, and the societal and political environment of the organization. This adapted model is taken as the basis for the further work. The third step of our approach now was to gather the sustainability topics relevant for artisanal and industrial food production. A desk research was carried out in which relevant topics were gathered from literature and other online sources. Moreover, the results of former projects and the results of the pilot projects were taken into consideration. The outcome of this step was a collection of relevant topics. In the next step, the collected topics were structured and allocated into the fields of our adapted competency model. Here you can see the model, which is completely filled with sustainability topics, which are relevant for our specific domain of food processing professions in artisanal and industrial food production. Here are some examples. On the left side of the table, you can see a sustainability competency related to product and process-related expertise. It is valorizing raw materials and optimizing working processes. In the middle of the table, you see a competency for social responsibility. It is evaluating upstream working and production conditions and supply chains. And on the right, you can see a sustainability competency for empowerment and identification. This is preserving traditions and setting trends. What had to be done next was to fill the model with life. In order to achieve this, competency targets were formulated for each field of the table. For instance, for the field valorizing raw materials and optimizing working processes, the formulation includes targets such as employees use machines and technical equipment and materials such as commodities or consumables in a resource-efficient way when valorizing raw materials. Employees understand the special impact that losses and waste or the excess use of packaging materials have on sustainability, and they know strategies to avoid wastage of resources. They can compare different cleaning and disinfection measures under sustainability aspects and apply them safely. And they can select and use machinery and equipment and carry out processes in such a way that resources such as water, raw materials, auxiliary materials, and energy are used efficiently. And the result of our work is this: a competency model for sustainable vocational education and training for the domain of artisanal and industrial food production. The complete work includes competency targets, which are formulated for the 15 sustainability-related fields of action relevant for our domain. For instance, this work can be used as the basis to design teaching and learning processes dedicated to vocational education and training for sustainable development. If you would like more information or if you have further questions about this work, please ask in the forum or contact us using the contact details. We look forward to your comments and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much for your attention.